A very popular topic in home construction is home tech. It's oftentimes one of those things that people aren't seeing when they visit a home, but there's actually a lot happening behind the walls, and there are a lot of great new features that we don't even think about. So that's why I think it's so great to have you here today, Paul. I mean, you've been doing this a long time, and when we've got these really high budget homes, like you are the guy that can do it all. So that's where we're gonna be able to pick your brain today. We kind of want to hear, like, what are people doing? What do you recommend? And of course, there are people that want to take this to varying degrees. So I'm sure there's some low hanging fruit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great to be on the show. And, it's been a passion for 18 years running. And we've really been fortunate to be, do a lot of neat projects and meet a lot of really cool people, and just excited to share any insight that might, inspire, new home building, and as it relates to the tech side and kind of some exciting opportunities there.
Just thinking, fundamentally, we've talked about this on the show so often, is those whole home water shutoffs and how that can be managed. But you are the first expert to have on this show that actually has installed these. You know how it works. Why may someone want to consider that for their home?
So typically, the water can be a significant item of damage. Insurance companies are always really concerned about the water. So what we can do is we can work with the plumber, and we can get a centralized main electronic shutoff valve that's being managed through the smart system. And we can have that hooked up to water sensors that could be in the mechanical room, which is where you have your most significant risk. But it stretches out into the entire home. There's under vanities are a hot spot for, multiple water fittings, potential failure points. And so we can really, work with the client to analyze the risk and help mitigate that by using these really cool valves.
So for a lot of our customers, it's kind of a vacation property where they might not be there all the time. This would be a great way to have a peace of mind where it just automatically shuts off, or does it alert them? Or
Yep. So what we can do is if it detects water in the home, it will automatically shut off the main source of water through the electronic valve. And then we can have it tied in as an environmental portion of the burglar alarm, which is monitored with the central station. So instantly, central station will get a notification, not of a burglary, but of a water detection. And these items are monitored 24/7, regardless of the state of the alarm.
Where are there sensors in the house that detects water? Like, are they like physical sensors?
Physical sensors,
okay.
Yep. Hardwired, as well as wireless on the retrofit, typically. And so those sensors are talking to a main control panel, which is monitored by central station. And so then it'll shut that water off. It'll remain off. And if it's like a remote situation where the client is not there, they'll get a quick notice from a central station, and they'll have a chance to send their plumber over, take a look at things before it has a chance to get out of hand and really cause a lot of damage.
Where is usually the point or the spot that usually is the problem in the house, the number one spot? Is it like a water heater failure, or is it just a broken pipe or frozen pipe?
A lot of times it's in the mechanical room where you have the high concentration of connections, fittings, crimp adapters, all of those sorts of things. So that seems to be the most significant one. But in addition to that, we have seen failures, like underneath a tub where you have, water fittings, drain fittings, all those types of things. So it can really be a lot of different potentials, but we're looking for the highest concentration of fittings because that's where the largest risks exist.
So you've been doing this, you said 18 years?
18 years, yep. Okay. I started up.
So a lot of change, I'm sure, over those years. What's
Absolutely.
Some of the newer, more popular things you're starting to see people?
Yeah, I think the biggest real dynamic change has to do with the home network and the prevalence of internet-based content and connectivity with the home. So what that does is that allows for streaming services, streaming music, and having everything. All of the electronics are now managed on the network, as opposed to having to shoot with like a remote control, maybe through a cabinet, or having to walk over and turn on your device manually. So everything's managed on the network. with a dedicated network address, and that creates a huge amount of reliability with the operation of the systems.
It simplifies things. Rather than having multiple controls, it all goes through. You could be your phone. It could be on an iPad, a tablet.
Yes.
Or you could even still have a dedicated remote that has Control 4 on it.
Yes. A lot of clients, they've been using that remote their whole life, so they kind of like that option. It definitely still exists, but yeah, with like even a large iPad, there's so many things that now we're interacting with that iPad, and it gives us an easy, intuitive interface to many things that enhance our lives. But then the ability to control these smart home features and control the lighting and music and things within a home is really powerful. And we're seeing a very large demand for that.
You mentioned, people are used to their old remote. I think that's maybe one of the fears is new technology is it going to be easy to use? Am I going to be able to figure it out? Am I going to be able to have my kids come over and show me how to use this? So what do you say to that when somebody has a concern like that?
Yeah, basically, we're using a system that is designed to be one touch. So all you need to do is tell the system, what you want to do. I want to watch Netflix. So you touch the Netflix icon and it takes care of everything. You don't have to know what input to put the receiver on, that the TV needs to be on HDMI 3 and so forth, and grab the appropriate Netflix remote. It takes care of setting up the entire system. The communication on the network is happening two ways. So it's recognizing that not only did we tell the TV to turn on, but yes, it did turn on, and it takes us right to Netflix and puts the control right at our fingertips.
So you don't have the 3-4 remotes sitting on the counter. You got one
remote. Yep. All of the remotes that come with these, we take those and kind of put them off to the side for servicing and other types of setups. But yeah, we end up with one single control that could be a remote, iPad, phone in your pocket, and quick, easy access to everything.
And then this remote can be duplicated. So it's not who has the remote in the room. Everyone's got it in their pocket for one thing because it's on their phone. And then, of course, we can have multiple physical devices as well. That's pretty cool.
It is. It's super cool. It's a lot of fun.
These macros that you can set up with the remotes, the fact that you can tie in, let's say you want the projector to play a movie, play whatever it is. It can bring down the screen, bring down the shades. It dims the lights so you don't get too much ambient light in the room. All this stuff, these tasks that you'd have to do separately, can all be done with the click of one button.
Yes, click of a button. And we can also, with newer voice control technology that is becoming very prevalent in a lot of homes, we're able to tie in the voice systems, and they can speak to the home automation system and create action there as well. So just walk into the room and speak a command can also be very powerful and useful.
So let's talk about user friendliness, because we are multiple generations past where this stuff used to be. Because I remember back in the day when there would be one person in the household that knew how to control everything, and everyone else was asking for help. Things are so much more intuitive today. And along with that user friendliness, of course, we talked about these automations that can be scheduled and set up. How is this home technology much more than just a flashy feature? How are these convenient for people? What are you seeing in homes that increase convenience?
Yeah, it really it has the ability to enhance your lifestyle. Being able to come in, pull into your garage and, open the door into your mudroom and hit the welcome button, which is a backlit engraved button that you can see in the dark. And it gives you light into your mudroom, maybe into your kitchen so you can set down the groceries. And depending on the time of the day, maybe it opens a few shades. And with just basically telling your home that you're there and activating the welcome command, it kind of gives you peace of mind, and you're ready to go into the home. And the reverse of that, basically, you're leaving the home, you can hit the goodbye button, and it can take care of closing the shades, making sure all your sound systems and TVs are turned off, maybe set back the HVAC temperature a little bit, and then do a delayed activation of your alarm system. So you're basically on your way, everything in the home is taken care of, and we're not running around frantically, seeing what we might have forgotten,
right.
So forth. So very powerful.
Not worried about what you missed. Did I turn this on? Did I turn that off? Boom, one push of the button or one voice command, and it's done.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And a guy like you could probably help someone out just on the spot, right? You could probably do it remotely.
Absolutely.
If they, for whatever reason, are struggling with something.
Yeah, and that's one of the other advantages that the home network and the internet has brought along is the ability to remotely access all of our systems, log in to help change any little bit of programming that might be needed, change a setting, change a timing, and as well as diagnose any issues and help the customer remain up and running as much as possible. Absolutely.
I recall my grandpa used to love watching the Golden Eagle YouTube videos, and he would call me whenever he couldn't figure out how to get his TV working. And it was a big deal to him. Any time that you can go without something working, it matters. And it always comes at an inconvenient time. It's when you're hosting people, you got a party,
yes,
all that, you're trying to get the whole sound system to work. I'd imagine that there are, those failures are not as common as they used to be. Like that systems are much more stable, particularly because of the rise in your infrastructure in these homes and the reliability of the internet servicing these homes.
Yes, absolutely. The ability to hardwire a lot of these devices and keep the Wi-Fi open and free for extra things as needed definitely has given us a great ability to stabilize these systems, reduce the service calls, and it's just been a lot of fun to be able to offer some systems, very reliable and have a great success coming away from that.
So speaking of internet, how do you work with customers that are building in remote areas or real rural areas? Do you see challenges there? Or?
Yeah, there have been a lot of challenges, getting internet into rural areas where we don't have a land-based local service provider. And so the satellite systems over the years have offered a little bit of a gateway to that, but the speed was always a significant issue. And so more recently, Starlink has become available, which is a kind of a modern high-speed option that we've seen to be very, very reliable. And so we're able to help our customers custom install that, integrate it into their existing smart home, and offer a whole new gateway of speed and user friendliness to their streaming by bringing in that new high-speed option. So that's been really a big win for us in the last 12 months or so.
Do you think most people would say Starlink is comparable to any ordinary internet that you would have if you were, let's say someone local around here like myself? I just have an average connection speed from our local provider.
Yes.
It's not at a business level. Is that what Starlink is like?
We've seen it be very comparable. Okay. On some of the numbers, because it is coming from the satellite, the numbers you see typically on a local fiber optic line can be a little bit stronger and have the ability, like you said, to go to an enterprise level speed. But for the average homeowner, we've seen it be able to give them all of the speed to operate a modern smart home.
And it's not, what is the hardware or the infrastructure needed for Starlink? It isn't like a satellite dish on the home anymore, is it? Or what is it?
It's kind of a newer modern satellite dish. It doesn't require nearly the servicing that the old ones used to. Had to be perfectly aligned with like 3 different bolts, and snow was always an issue. The new one is basically, it's just a panel that gets mounted to the northern sky. It has a built-in heating element when it does get cold and snow is on there. And there's no physically moving parts. There's no aiming needed. And so the abundance of satellites has become so extensive that it's just very reliable from a non-moving receiving device on the home.
When we featured that off-grid cabin, they had Starlink, and the guy said it was just awesome. He said it's just as good as if I'm at home. So that's pretty cool to be in the middle of nowhere and have internet service.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
yeah.
Yes.
And I know some of our designers have it at home. They're in remote areas, and they're able to work from home and design from home, and no lack in coverage there either.
Something I love is for our clients who have these as second homes, they can monitor them remotely. So it could be security cameras.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, all those security cameras are seeing are the beautiful wildlife, right? The moose that rolls up to the driveway. I was just at a home last week, and he was showing me a picture of that moose in their driveway. Thought that was pretty great. There's usually not much around, but it's a peace of mind, a comfort So would you talk about those security cameras and what you like to see in a new build?
Yeah, so typically on a new build, we like to hardwire them to create maximum reliability, maximum responsiveness onto the internet, out to your mobile device, wherever you happen to be. With being a custom integrator, we have hardware that's available to us that's not out in the marketplace at a Best Buy or a Home Depot. Typically, a lot of those devices are strictly Wi-Fi. It's made for consumer easy setup. So what we have is a lot of hardwired devices, even a hardwired video doorbell, so that we can free up the bandwidth on the Wi-Fi and give a very reliable connection. And so we're pre-wiring for these cameras and also the video doorbell so that it can all kind of show up into the one user interface and be able to keep an eye on things, have two-way voice conversation through the cameras, greet a delivery or a guest, unexpected guest. And so it's really a powerful tool that there again is leveraged off of the existing home internet and the existing smartphone that is pretty common that most people have.
What kind of wiring are you using, Paul? Is it Cat 5, Cat 6, or?
We're taking, traditionally we have Cat 5 cable, and now we're using Cat 6 cable, and now we're even moving into Cat 7. So newer speeds are always kind of becoming available, and so eventually we'll be putting fiber optic in the home, and as things progress into the future. But a lot of Cat 6 and Cat 7 is happening these days.
What does that mean? Cat 5, Cat 6? What does that all mean?
So those category ratings on the cable have to do with speed, and it has to do with the how tightly the wires are twisted and wound, and for their ability to carry information long distances at a high speed.
So if you had a customer come to you that was thinking about building a brand new home, I guess what are some of the key things you would think about or tell them to consider? What features would you really highlight?
Yeah, I think we would, really try to pre-plan the tech portion of the conversation, and of course, starting with the backbone infrastructure of internet and connected home cabling, and then from there it reaches out into having maybe one platform. We use a Control 4 platform, which allows us to manage multiple systems within the same app. So if that was of interest to the client, if they were thinking about multiple things like, maybe television systems with upgraded audio coming out of them, whole home music, motorized shades, a really big one that's been a lot of success lately is a lighting control system. So all of these subsystems can operate collectively together and give the homeowner a very easy, intuitive interface to control their home.
And within those, like we touched on before, you can actually set certain scenes, right? Where you push a button that's maybe, movie night or party or whatever.
Yes.
And it controls not only the music that comes on, probably the volume at which it comes on to, dims the lights or puts them brighter, however you want them.
Yeah, the ability to create a lifestyle scene that is available at the touch of a button is very powerful, because especially in larger homes where we have a lot of different, very artistic light fixtures, which really can highlight the home, our ability to set the perfect level to every single light with the touch of a button or a spoken voice, maybe it could be called a relax scene or a prepare scene in a kitchen, to be able to make that space look like magic all the time with the lighting control has been a big passion of mine, and I really enjoy working with that.
So are you adjusting those settings manually and then saving that? So then when you come back in, it adjusts those, or are those preset levels?
So we'll go in with the client typically when it's a little bit past sunset in the home, when the lights have their most dynamic effect, and we'll create scenes based on their different lighting fixtures that they have with the particular light bulbs that are in there. And we'll go in and we'll create some magical scenes, and then we'll save those, and we'll use those as our baseline. And so now the customer can come in the home and they can activate those scenes and have everything look really nice. In addition to that, we do have the option for the client to go into the iPad and they can adjust the scene. They could go in and they could edit that, and they could preview their edit. Let's say they wanted the chandelier to be a little bit brighter over the dining room, and then they could go ahead and save that, and it would then be the new preset. So we do have some ability to allow our clients to change a little bit. They don't always have to call us, but certainly a quick text to us with a change, we're able to remote in and update that as well.
Oh, nice.
Well, we had the pleasure of visiting your hangar earlier today, and you had pointed out that those labels are located higher than a typical light switch would be, and that's so that it's easy to read.
Yes, absolutely.
And you also taught us that interior designers love this. Can you explain why?
Well, the interior design of a home is something that the interior designer is very passionate about, and they're concerned with every inch of wall space typically. And so the ability to remove a lot of extra light switches, maybe banks of 3, 4, maybe multiple banks of 4 light switches in a very concentrated area of the home, really is not very designer friendly. So what we're able to do is we're able to remove all of those switches, which typically are unlabeled, and we're able to put one simple intuitive interface. It could either be one gang or maybe even just 2 at the most, at a little bit of a raised elevation. Everything is labeled and backlit, and we can now activate all of those lights and set all of the dimmers of all 8 lights perfectly with just one quick press. So the designers are very much in favor of getting that out of there. We have multiple colors that we can use. We use a wall plate that goes around the switches that have no exposed screws. And they also have some very designer-friendly textures and tones that designers are really anxious to use and create a lot of excitement there.
I like the flexibility of it. If in hindsight you thought, man, I wish I would have connected these lights together so I don't have to go turn it on over here and then over there. You can just set it up so that when you turn on this one switch, they both come on.
Yeah, that's the magic of the programming ability on our software that we use to set up the system. We can go in and with a little bit of logic programming, basically say, when this light turns on, we can have a programming reaction off of that. So we could have another light turn on at the same time, and it would kind of give you the feel that both lights were just connected to the same switch. So there's an unbelievable amount of flexibility that comes in addition to just the simple scenes. If we have a homeowner who has a little bit more of a unique taste or a unique desire for their lighting, we can adapt to all of those things as needed.
And it could be on a schedule, couldn't it?
Absolutely.
That way you're not walking into a dark area of the home, or you don't have your, let's say only a certain portion of the home is lit up on the outside. You could have everything light up based on sunset.
Yes.
And turn off based on sunrise.
Yep. Another great thing about the internet, it brings us the current time of day for the sunset for the region that we live in, which changes every day of the year. So we can set up exterior lighting on dusk, which will then activate that when the sun goes down, and maybe keep it on till 11 or 12 as needed. Another real common thing is to take some of the accent lamps within a home and have those turn on at dusk, so that as the sun starts to set, there's some accent lighting in the home, just naturally automatic. It's not overwhelming, but it's just a really cool accent to the space, and really creates a neat environment.
You had a great idea earlier, and it was taking motion sensors and having those turn on certain lights throughout a home. That way it's not too dark in the space, and particularly when you're aging in place. If you think of someone who doesn't necessarily feel their best, they're 90 years old, they don't want to go around the home, turn on all the light switches, just them being in the space can make the space, obviously much brighter.
Absolutely.
And you're still enjoying that home the same as you were 20 years ago then.
Yeah, the motion sensing is just another extension of this, where we can put different styles of motion sensors in unique places and allow for automatic lighting to come on, maybe set with a timer to turn off a certain amount of time later, and really make the movement throughout a home efficient and well lit.
I think it'd make the home safer as well. If you get up in the middle of the night, you don't want to turn on a light switch. Maybe you can have something, sense it, that you're getting up in the middle of the night, and put on a little dim light or some accent lighting.
Absolutely. Yeah. we just did a project where we had a little sensor kind of mounted underneath the nightstand. So as soon as your feet came over and hit the floor, it just turned on a little bit of like toe kick lighting in the bathroom. So it's kind of like a night light, but a little bit brighter, and then would shut off a few minutes after you went back to sleep.
Nice.
So a lot of fun stuff.
So to get back to planning, Paul, when do you typically get involved in a project, or when would you prefer to get involved in the project? During the home design phase, or maybe when the walls are up, or what is the best time?
Yeah, typically what has worked out really well is that the client is working with the designer on the blueprints. And once the blueprints have been finalized, that's a great time for me as a subcontractor, electronic systems contractor, to begin working with the client on their interests of smart home technology features, as well as looking at the blueprint to see where it might fit in. And getting an early start on that is critical as we get into the planning of certain framing aspects, as it would relate to maybe TVs and speakers and motorized shades, getting certain framing elements. There's a lot of really unique custom things we can do to hide speakers, and we can hide motorized shades and really create some neat options there. So right after that blueprint, and then we work in budgeting and planning right from there.
So now, are you working with the electrician or taking place of the electrician on some parts of the job, or?
Yeah, typically primarily with the lighting control, we'll integrate with the electrician. And so the electrician will work with them and will present the lighting design plan, and they will do their wiring of the high voltage lines. And then we'll work with them on the installation of the light switches. And then once the light switches are in and functional, then we'll come in with the custom engraving with the backlit keycaps and the programming portion.
So are you doing like electrical layout for them on paper, or how does that look?
They're typically doing the load schedule. So the fixtures being the primary part of the load schedule. And then what we're doing is we're working with them on the new placement of the light switches. So the non-typical reduction of wall switches, we work with them and take some of the loads and remove them off of the wall, hide them out of the way, and we work with them on removing some of that. It really helps the electrician a lot of times, because all they need to focus on then is the lighting fixtures and the control location. But what they don't have to get involved in is what they want to control from each location. So it really simplifies the walkthrough. And then once things are in place, we could say, well, from this keypad here by the front door, we want to control these 3 lights, and we can just program that in, and we can adapt that as the homeowner needs.
So there's no more of that 2-way, 3-way light switches where you're trying to guess which switch does what. And
yeah, on these systems, the 3-way and 4-way wiring that the electrician would use, which is typically 14-3 with ground or 12-3, they're not using any of that type of wiring. Everything is based on a single pole dimmer load, which saves money and time on their side.
so if a customer came to you and they're looking to build a new home, but maybe they do have a little bit of budget that they're trying to maintain, what would be some of those features that you would still highlight that might not be over the top for them, but still give them some technology built in?
The must-haves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it comes to mind there is the custom mounted TV on the wall. So we want to have a good television system, and we want to also have a good sound system coming off of that. So when we watch TV, it sounds really good. But what we can do is we can integrate the home music system into the same speaker configuration. So we're only having to buy one set of speakers for the room, and in the programming of the system, we can use those same speakers if we want to listen to a Pandora when the TV is off. Or the reverse of that would be, watching television and then using that really powerful sound bar and subwoofer configuration to give the best sound all the time.
Well, you had redone what was originally done over at that pool pub, that timber pool pub. They had built that must be at least 10 years ago, and you really brought them up to speed. So you had replaced the TV and the audio there.
Yeah, that was a good example of, just the way technology is advancing very quickly. The ability to put a newer high definition resolution upgraded video panel, larger video panels for less money. And yeah, the sound system really enhanced that. But to me, more importantly, the control of it. Now it's all in the Control4 app. It's available on the iPad and the client's phone as well. And it's just easier to use than it ever was, as well as sounding and looking better.
So you can retrofit without changing any wires. You can upgrade.
Yeah, typically we're able to retrofit and upgrade systems. A lot of times, if there is some network cabling there, we can utilize that. We also have abilities to use wireless technology to bring connectivity to these devices in a retrofit where we have maybe difficulty with the cabling.
And there's another home that is finishing up. We'll be doing a YouTube tour this fall. And you were pretty intensively involved over there. So what are some of the things that you did over at that project?
Yeah, that was a good example of, getting the planning done ahead of time so that we can execute a really cool system. We have all of the integrated lighting control system is on display there, and very intuitive use of the television systems. Something new is a frame TV, which allows us to have a panel that looks like artwork. As a friend might come over, they might compliment you on your artwork, and then a little bit later, you're watching a baseball game on the same panel. So that is something that is very unique, and if we're able to integrate that on the new construction side, we have some tricks where we can hide the infrastructure for that type of setup and make it really clean and user-friendly as well.
We had seen the frame TV in that 17,000 square foot luxury estate. You may not have noticed it even, but just beyond the kitchen, there's an outdoor dining space. So you wouldn't think, I don't want a TV in the dining room, but it also serves as a big party area. So of course, if the game's on, they want the TV on in there. It was pretty neat. And while this home didn't have it, I have seen those frame TVs with a legitimate frame around them that snaps on.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It really does look like a piece of artwork.
Yep. And so then in those scenarios where the interior designer is really desiring a clean art type of look, that also gives us the opportunity to bring in some speakers that can be hidden in the space, even to the point of something that's completely embedded into the drywall. Speaker technology that comes through the drywall. Speakers, subwoofers, and so it gives you a dynamic experience.
Justin, we heard that when we were over at that house.
I was just thinking, that timber frame home in Minnesota we were at, they had the speakers behind the wall. And obviously you can't see the speakers, and you would never tell that they were hidden behind the wall from the sound.
And it sounded so good.
Crystal clear.
Yeah, it's amazing technology. And to be able to work with that into the design is just a lot of fun. Yeah.
We'll be featuring that this year as well. But unfortunately, what you can't quite capture is how good it sounds. When you're on video, our viewers aren't going to be able to pick that up. So we'll just take the testimony here.
Yeah.
Paul, we touched on a number of things that you do. What are some things that we didn't talk about yet that you get into with your business?
So we have a very wide variety of electronics type of devices that can be in the home. I think another big thing is the outdoor space. The landscape lighting, the outdoor audio system, outdoor video system. That can be a whole nother option there to take things outdoors. Okay. The burglar alarms that we work with offer a lot of peace of mind. So we're able to customize those into the home and give the customer a very easy to use, intuitive option there when it comes to the burglar alarm. Right. Movie theaters are something that are really cool. Give a nice viewing space within the home to more of a dedicated space for movies and entertaining. So some of those options.
When we were at your hangar, I mean, I think fundamentally there's so much cool stuff to see, but you are meticulous on detail. Even when it comes down to the mechanical room, being able to hide these things that most people would ordinarily have out and you wouldn't think it's a big deal. But when you see the way that you do it, it's just like, wow, that just makes sense. We can just hide this behind these panels. And then also like not, maybe it's not a server rack, but to me, it looks like a server rack, hinges off the wall, side panel access, everything's buttoned up. You could even lock it. So that's really great as well, in case you're using your home as an Airbnb or something of that sort. People can stay out of these areas.
Yeah, absolutely. The ability to have fewer contractors involved in doing these, we are able to bring all of the different technology wiring into the panels as needed, label them, manage them, and give ourselves a great way to service the system moving forward is critical.
Yeah, in our visit today, I could tell you're very detail oriented, very meticulous, like Zach said, and I can only imagine you do the same with your clients.
Yeah, it's really, it's what's behind the drywall that really is a good representation. So, we really strive for, detail, perfection, all the way from the, designing, the installation of every cable and termination, testing, and so it's what's hidden that really represents what you see, and to be able to bring that all together is just a lot of fun.
And you do so much for yourself too. Like on your end, you see this all not only from the professional standpoint, but also from the consumer experience. What would Paul like for himself is the way you're thinking of it. And I know over at my home, you did all that outdoor lighting, and there was such great advice associated with that. We've got different styles of light fixtures, and that was really great to see how that all came together. Dan Preston had done the hardscaping. That was incredible. And then these lights really accented things. So you really took it to the next level there.
Yeah, it's fun to get involved in some of these other entities, and really fun to, collaborate with other contractors and, on behalf of the homeowner, and really come up with just something that's awesome in the end.
Well, something we've only lightly touched on, but it comes up all the time, is those shades, the motorized shades. So let's pretend we're starting at the fundamentals. What would people want to consider when it comes to motorized blinds or shades?
Yeah, so definitely the ability to have those be automatically controlled is huge, because a lot of times the windows are, quite frankly, out of reach on a lot of these larger scale, taller homes. So the ability to bring that control and just even that option in there is huge. And then, of course, the pre-wiring of it that we can do is critical to the long-term high performance of them. And the motors and the shades have gotten to the point where they can be virtually silent. And so by having some really good wiring in there, can offer that option. There are also battery controlled options where we can retrofit into an existing home, and the ability to, have all the shades come down real slow based on, a time of day or a brightness level within the space is just a magical thing when those shades all come down.
I've seen clients where they have these beautiful feature walls, and like you said, they use these motorized shades for that, but they also time it so that when the sun is really coming in that time of the day, they don't think about it. They don't think about the fact that, all right, now I don't have to worry about, it getting too bright in here or anything of that sort. And it would be more of a diffuser shade. It's not meant for privacy necessarily, although I'm sure it serves that purpose. But you're in the middle of nowhere, you're in the mountains or in a beautiful lake lot. It's really just meant to, break up the light and kind of make things a little more enjoyable in that space.
Is it based on time of day, or is there a light sensor somewhere built into them?
Yeah, so you can kind of add those options as needed. So you can definitely do something that is based on a time. Obviously, as the seasons change, right, the intensities are different at different times of the day. So a light level sensor in there is real nice a lot of times. So if it gets up to a certain point, it'll go ahead and just know that it's really bright and sunny, and it can lower the heat coming in, as well as protect the interior of the home from excessive fading and so forth.
A lot of people intuitively think of designing an area in their home for mechanicals. Of course, we need it. What about designing a dedicated space for all of this? The brain of the house, or you've got all your, sure, it certainly could be in the mechanical space, which is oftentimes a dry area, a cool area. But I've also seen it located in multiple locations through a house, one on each floor, or just one central hub. What do you prefer? What do you recommend?
Yeah, I think it's really ideal if we can get a dedicated space. A lot of times a basement space that is cool and dry and free from a lot of moving dust and debris is very helpful. But by having the majority of the electronics in one space gives us the ability to interconnect them. And when new technology comes into the home, we can disperse it to those multiple systems as needed. So usually an array of wall panels as well as cabinet spinning off the wall gives us the ability to cool those components, interconnect them, and future-proof the home with things that moving forward as well.
Well, a fun topic and a fun question we always like to ask experts like yourself is, what is in the future? What do you see? I'm sure it's technologies that are currently out there, but not widely adopted yet. What do we see an increased adoption in the future?
I think the content that's going to be delivered off of the internet is just going to really increase in its broadness as well as its quality. And so the quality is where the larger bandwidth is going to be required to bring larger file size. Things that are nicer are just going to require more bandwidth coming into the home. I think there will be an increased awareness of the ability to have automatic functions happening. It may be based off of your phone being sensed in a particular part of the home to give you occupancy. And so those are a couple of things that come to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. A neat feature is when it notices nobody's at home, whether based off their phones or perhaps lack of motion, it could just automatically make sure all the doors are locked for you. So that'd be pretty neat.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, there's so many cool possibilities, Paul. It just seems like it could be endless. We could really get into the weeds. You touch base on the potential of fiber being brought into homes. That'll open up a world of possibilities, especially as this adoption increases. I think what's really phenomenal and oftentimes a misunderstanding is people think that these things are something that they need to actively control, when in reality, it's intuitive. Like, things are set up to be simple, and you set it and you forget it, right? So a professional like you makes sure that everything is well created, like well set up, so that any user, whether one that just visits the home on the occasion or one that's in there every single day, that they're going to be able to equally have a wonderful experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, the ability to have a guest visit your home and basically pick up on some of the simple operation, I think is just a great example of how simple we can make it be. And you don't have to have a lot of training and know how to basically say, hit that Netflix button and it takes you there.
Yeah.
Hit the welcome button. It welcomes you to the home.
That's a good point. I've had a few clients that are building our homes for VRBOs, Airbnbs. So to make it user friendly is super key. So when you have a guest coming in, they're not fumbling around and trying to learn how to use that.
Absolutely. There's some unique features we can use within the programming that are specifically designed for hospitality spaces. So whether it's a rental hotel type space, there's some special settings in there that give some great control options.
A great idea that Dan and Sandy Kempinen pointed out when they did a podcast with us on their short-term vacation rentals. They like to make sure the lights are on for the guests when the guests arrive. Of course, they don't want the lights on all day. And then as the guests leave, they don't have to go check on the place to make sure all the lights are off. They can just do that remotely. Well, that's pretty intuitive and pretty neat.
Yeah, great example. Absolutely.
When we had Tim Burkhauser on the podcast, he had talked about how insurance companies can offer better discounts, but also may have a requirement once your home is of a certain value the requirement may be that you need to have a central home monitoring system. That's something you're familiar with. You did that over at the Timberlake.
With the insurance underwriting, when the home has a monitored system, whether it's for the burglary or for the environmental portion, which would be water detection, temperature, high and low temperature threshold detection, being able to have an extra set of eyes watching over those things when maybe somebody's not at the home all the time is something that is really being driven from the insurance side, because it just offers such a great option to reduce risk. And so by putting these systems in and connecting them through the internet to a centrally monitored station gives them the ability to then have that written into their insurance policy, and typical significant discounts are typically associated with that.
Paul, it's been terrific having you on today's podcast. This is such an important topic because there are so many great things that people can do, particularly in new home construction and when it's set up with a professional like yourself. So for any of you that are particularly in Wisconsin, I assume your service area is Wisconsin?
Yeah, we service, most of our clients are within the Wisconsin boundary. So that's what we're typically seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put your contact information below. You are a wealth of information. Perhaps we'll have to connect with you on that job site that is just finishing up. We'll be doing that tour this fall.
Absolutely. We'll be really looking forward to displaying the new options that were presented there, and moving forward from that as well.
That'll be great. Thanks so much, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Imagine a life where your home is a work of art, where nature and luxury embrace, with a custom Golden Eagle log and timber home. Our expert team is here to guide you every step of the way.